I welcome you all. Today we are going to discuss another important policy, which is known as fiscal policy. You may recall that in the last lecture, I discussed about the monetary policy, which is a policy which tries to regulate the supply of money and the economy using certain tools uh, like open market operation, discount rate variation, and requirement variations. The monetary policy is conducted by the central bank of the country. In India, it is conducted by RBI. Another policy which is used to attain economic objective of a high economic growth and generation of employment, reduction in inequalities in income and wealth, and to manage the economic business cycle is known as fiscal policy. Today I'll discuss about what is fiscal policy and how fiscal policy operates, and then I'll go on to discuss one important aspect of fiscal policy, that is taxation, and I'll try to discuss what are the principles that underlie behind taxation in a country. And lastly, I will also discuss some of the issues related to fiscal policy. But I will discuss these two aspects in two lectures. Today, I will provide a background of the fiscal policy. And, uh, and to start with, let us have a definition of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is defined as a policy or the action of the government that tries to influence economic activities through manipulation, do not think in manipulation in negative way, by changes in the taxation and government expenditure. So there are two main aspects of fiscal policy, that is by changing taxes and by increasing or decreasing government expenditure, which is also called public expenditure. That the government can increase taxes or can decrease taxes or can increase government expenditure or can decrease government expenditure. There is one more aspect of fiscal policy, which is debt, public debt management, but I have not written here. That is also one aspect of it. So our primary focus is how government uses these two tools, that is the changes in taxation and changes in expenditure, that is government expenditure, to influence economic activities. And when government changes the taxation, then its aim is to achieve high level of economic growth, which we have already discussed. Let us say GNP or GDP. Price stability. It wants to have the moderate level of inflation in the economy, and it would like to generate employment for all the able-bodied and willing young citizens of the country, and would also like to reduce the inequalities in income and wealth, the gap between rich and poor is all to decrease. That is also one of the objectives of fiscal policy. And also one of the major objectives of fiscal policy is that to contain the effect of changes in the business condition, which is known as cycle. Sometimes there is a economic prosperity, and that leads to a period where there is low demand, high unemployment. So it tries to moderate the effect of business cycle and steer economy out of a period of low demand to high demand, which we call business cycle, which I'll discuss in fifth unit. What is business cycle? Now, some historical information about fiscal policy will be useful to you. In comparison to monetary policy, the use of fiscal policy is of recent origin. Recent origin means that the fiscal policy gained prominence during the depression of 1930s, and it gained prominence because of one famous economist whose name was John Maynard Keynes. Now, all of you must have heard about depression of 1930s. Depression is a severe form of recession. Recession is a period where there is low demand, high unemployment, all the economic activities are at very low level. So when it lasts for a decade, recession may be a period for 2 years to 10 years maximum, but when it goes on and gets sustained over decades, then it turns into depression. So it is a severe form of recession. The background of depression of 1930s is the First World War and later development. So you know that the economic thinking is governed by certain theories or certain philosophies how to manage the economy. So during the depression of 1930s, the period lasted for this recessionary period. Just 1 minute, please. Sorry for the interruption. Sometime when you are taking class at your home, sometime there is some urgent call, so I had to attend that. So what I was explaining that the depression of 1930s, a severe form of economic recession lasted for decades. So the prevailing economic thinking at that time was an idea which is known as, in economics, Say's law of market. So Say's law of market, it states that supply creates its own demand. And Say was a French economist. Supply creates its own demand. It means that if goods are produced, people will be employed. Naturally, when production takes place, employment will lead to income, and when income is received by the workers, they will spend money. There will be expenditure, consumption expenditure on goods, and therefore there will not be problem. So this economic thinking that supply creates own demand, so prevailed at that time, and underlying this philosophy of economic was that government should not intervene in the economy, that free market, and government should keep its intervention at minimum, or government should operate at bay, keep hands-off approach from the functioning of the economy. It means that non-interventionist approach should be followed by the government and let the market to work itself out. And this law also try to underline that if there are aberrations, there are a period of low demand, then it will correct itself and there is no need for government intervention. So they say that there are automatic or built-in stabilizer in the economy which will bring back economy to the rails. It means that if there is any economic malady is there, that malady will be cured, letting the market to correct itself, not by investing heavily. So this idea prevailed at that time. But what happened that the period of the recessionary period was very long. That is depression period lasted for more than 3 decades, and there was no sign of recovery from that is demand was not picking up. Goods were the inventory, unsold goods were lying, and nobody was buying because massive unemployment has erupted and like that. So what was lacking in the economy was that demand was not picking up. Unsold goods were there. When unsold goods are there, then businesses will cut down production. When nobody is buying it, they will cut down. When production goes down, it will lead to lower employment. Lower employment, that is the unemployment will increase and it will reduce income of the people and so on. So naturally when they will have less income to spend it, and moreover when the unemployment was increasing, then what happened that because of this, people were, whatever money they had, they were not spending because they were fearful that in future there is no chance of getting employment, so they were saving money. So in this gloomy backdrop, when economies of the world were reeling under this severe form of recession, then there was a need for some fresh thinking, some new insights, how to steer the economy out of this hardship. So at this time, the famous economist who is known as John Maynard, J.M. Keynes, came on the stage, world stage, as a prominent economist, and he pointed out that the problem of the economy is the lack of demand. And in order to revive the demand, government should spend money. When others are not, businesses are not spending because they are finding that their inventories are piling up and other things, so they should spend. The government should spend public money, and when government spends, people will get income. When they get income, they will go in the market and will demand goods and services. When goods are sold, further production will take place. People will get employment, and people will get employment, they will again get income, and a virtuous cycle will be created. So Keynes suggested that he was advisor to Queen of England. He suggested that if there is no worthwhile activity, ask people to dig holes in the earth and then ask them to fill it up. If there is no work, and then pay them money. They will go in the market, and when they go in the market, they will demand goods and services. So this idea of Keynes of that the demand and its revival lies at the root of recovery of economic activities gained prominence, and that is why he advocated that use of fiscal policy, and one part of fiscal policy, that is the taxation, public expenditure, is a very, very important tool. And he wrote the famous book an introduction to general theory of employment and money at that time. So his ideas were very revolutionary at that time. And later on, in US, a guide to Keynes was written. And this book, if you look at this book is hardly contains mathematics. Keynes actually was a multifaceted personality. He was not an economist. He was a playwright. He was an investor, and he was governor of Bank of England, and he was a civil servant, and so on. His first job was the Indian office in London. So Keynes' ideas has gained prominence over the years, and that is the economy is reeling under recessionary period. Same is the case with also the COVID situation. That is why the government, when businesses are not spending, government should spend money to revive the economy. So this is a brief background of how the fiscal policy came to prominence and gained currency in the policy making. So this idea of the Say's law of market, which says that government should not intervene and let the economy to revive itself, can be. So it is written here in this, in case of broken glass, do nothing, it will fix itself. So if a glass is broken, do nothing. A recession is there, government should not intervene. Let the market revive itself. There are inherent tendencies in the economy. What is the Keynesian idea? Keynesian idea is simply this, in simple words, that in case of nothing to do, if there is nothing to do, break glass and sweep it a broken glass. This is what Keynes suggested. If there is no worthwhile activity, ask them to do. For example, after the financial crisis of 2008, it was suggested that government should dismantle the road and start, starting the road, because in US all the roads have been constructed. So there is not much scope like in India that public expenditure can be spent on road construction. So they said that the reconstruction can be started if there is no worthwhile activity like that. So that is why sometimes it is an idea that you have to put money in the hands of the people so that they can go in the market and demand goods and services, buy goods and services, and therefore the unsold goods are sold, and the businesses get signal that there is more demand, they produce more, people get more employment, and when they get more employment, they will get income, and a cycle will be created. A chain reaction, a chain effect will be created. In fact, in the early, during the depression of 1930s, one of the famous economists at Harvard, William Taussig, would come on radio every day and urge people not to save, but to spend. Because people, whatever saving they were having, they were not spending it, because they thought that there are no likelihood of getting employment in the future. So whatever money they had, they were very chary of spending. So he would come on radio every day, urging people to please spend, do not save. That is that is in your interest, because if you spend money, inventories, the unsold goods are taken off, bought by the consumers, businesses will further produce, and employment will be generated, and so on. So this is a brief background and of the idea, and this is the challenger's reply. That is the John Maynard Keynes, whose photograph is here. That you can read it, and then I'll go further. So the challenger, that is the John Maynard Keynes ideas, has gained currency, and now it is said that all the famous economists, in recent time, starting from Paul Samuelson to Joseph Stiglitz to Paul Krugman, they belong to Keynesian school of thought, wherein they believe that government intervention in the economy to revive the economy is a must, not that leave the economy to itself to correct itself. So let us come back to the idea of the Keynes with this brief history, because every policy, every philosophy, every idea has some historical background, why it gains currency. So what I pointed out till now in very short is this. The problem of depression of 1930s was lack of demand. And fiscal policy is one tool that can be used to address this lack of demand and to address the problem of how to increase aggregate demand in the economy. Now this equation I have told you, that is a very important equation. The total demand in the economy is made of consumption spending by the people like you and me, that on durable and non-durable. Investment is by the businesses on machineries and equipment and other plants and other things. Businesses will not spend if they think that the prospect of demand or demand is coming down or demand will not increase. And government purchases, in other words, are expenditure by the government on public expenditure program. Sometimes the employment guarantee programs are there in India, America, and others. So all these are in a way to boost demand in the economy and provide income. And similarly, the demand, this part is export, that is demand by foreigners for our good, and M is our demand by the foreigner. So if consumers are not spending, businesses are not spending, then government on this foreign, that is demand from here, is not coming, then government's role is very important, that government can use its resources to spend money to increase the demand in the economy so that the health of the economy is revived and the objectives of high growth, generation of employment are attained. So this is how the fiscal policies affect the economic activities. Now, fiscal policy, like monetary policy, can be expansionary or it may be contractionary. Expansionary means that when government wants to increase total demand in the economy, and when government wants to decrease aggregate demand in the economy, then it is called contractionary. So by decreasing tax, the aggregate demand, government can increase taxes and reduce expenditure and so on. And if you government want to increase demand, can reduce taxes and increase public expenditure, like that. Now, as far as the operation of fiscal policy is concerned, I discussed one idea, which I said that the monetary policy operates, or any policy operates with a lag. Lag means that when policy action is taken, like taxes are increased, this is an action. Taxes increase. How long it will take to have an effect on the real variable, like income and other aspects. So as far as fiscal policy is concerned, the effect is very drastic. That very less time is involved here. Because the moment taxes are increased, the income, if in direct taxes are increased, the salaries will be reduced and people will have less income. Or indirect taxes are increased on goods and services, it may have an effect, but the time may last much longer because people may take time to switch over if the taxes are uncertain. But as far as fiscal policy is concerned, this lag is very less in comparison to monetary policy, because monetary policy operates via interest rates, and its effect may take 6 to 9 months to transmit it on real. Whereas fiscal policy has got an immediate, the effect, which does not involve much lag. But there is one more thing which will take, which will make things slightly involved. But I think that let me point out also that when any policy action is taken, first thing is that you should recognize that there is a problem. For example, when should government take? So naturally, for recognition, we should have data. That economy, that demand is coming down, employment is increasing, GDP is falling, data about GDP, employment, inflation. These are the data, and on which the policy making is made, action are taken. So again, please remember that these data and other things also is received by the government with a lag. This is not real-time data. Okay. So when finally the data is, and then government thinks that this is the time to act, and then the action is taken, and then the impact is there. So imagine a situation where the data itself is not very reliable, whether GDP is increasing or decreasing, our employment has gone up or come down. Another thing, the policy making will not be effective at all, because all our actions are based on this thing. Even if the data is correct, so there is a lag in recognition, and by the time sometime actions are taken, the data is received, and then the policy actions are taken, and the policy actions prove to be ineffective because they are no longer required or no longer relevant for that. So cutting short this story is that there is always a lag when an action is taken and when the effect gets transmitted to real value. And this effect in fiscal policy, this lag is smaller in comparison to monetary policy. I think this is enough for you to remember at this moment, because these are some of the other issues which are not needed at this, but just I wanted to hint at. Now, the fiscal policy, is used to counter cyclical, the fluctuation in economic activities. That is, the economy undergoes the changes. And two economic conditions are worth noting. One is called recession, period of low demand or slow economic growth. And another condition may be when inflation is, that is, prices are rising. So in this condition, when economy is low, government, as I've already explained, government should follow expansionary policy, increase government spending and cut taxes. So this will give boost to GDP and provide stimulus. And whereas in other case, government want to contain the rise in price, and therefore should take opposite action. Government should cut down expenditure, curtail expenditure, and raise taxes so that the price levels are contained without harming GDP. So sometimes it's a great challenge that in some economies we have faced that the prices are rising and the economy is also declining, which we call stagflation, a situation called stagnation. So that is a different thing, which in the last part of my lecture I will discuss about that. So depending upon the economic condition, government can take these actions. Now, why fiscal policy plays a very important role or a potent role in reviving the economic activity, that when government makes expenditure or businesses invest money, they undertake investment expenditure. That, for instance, government make 100 crore investment. So what happens that the final increase in income because of this action may be a multiple of that. That leads to a concept which is known in economics, a concept of multiplier. It has got a multiplier. That is why fiscal policy creates a chain effect in the economy, and it creates a virtuous cycle. So let us try to understand how this works out in the economy. What I am trying to explain here is that when government takes some public expenditure program or government spending, which is autonomous. Autonomous means that which is not induced, government itself undertakes, such as railway line, road, to boost the economy. So it will lead to final increase in income in the economy by a multiple of that. How this happens? Let us try to understand. Now this idea can be understood by, let me start with a very simple example, then I will use the equation. Let us assume that government spent 100 crore. So those who are involved in this production process, they will receive 100 crore worth of income. Let us assume that those who get 100 crore, they spend 2/3 of this and rest 1/3 they save it. Now 2/3 of spending will take place. It means that the goods and services of 2/3 of this amount will be purchased by those who have received this income. Now what will happen that the businesses will further produce to meet the demand. So those who are involved in the production process, they will again receive an income of this. So let us say this 2/3 income which they received, that 1/3 is saved and another the rest is spent on that. Then again the further production will take place to meet demand, and those who are involved, they will again spend. So a kind of chain effect will be created. The more spending is there, the more will be demand on goods and services in the economy. And what will happen that initial increase in will lead to final increase in income by a multiple of that. So this is the idea that is why the government expenditure and the investment expenditure has got a multiplier. Is simply this formula which illustrates 1/1 minus MPC, that is how much they spend on goods, marginal propensity to consume. Greater is the tendency of the people to consume. In other words, lesser is the tendency to save. For example, they are saving the 50% of it, half. So they will spend less. So multiplier effect will be less. But if they are spending 2/3 of it, the multiplier effect will be more. So the greater the MPC, and that is why I told you that William Taussig will ask people to spend money on that. So let us take a concrete example to understand this. Let us assume that an initial 50 billion increase in investment spending by, let us say, businesses from optimistic expectation set off, because businesses think that there will be potential demand in the future, likely demand in the future, therefore they spend now. For example, so it will create a chain effect in the economy. And let us assume that the marginal propensity to consume is 0.6, that is 60% of it is spent and 40% is saved, isn't it? So let us say the first spending 50 billion is carried. Then those who receive income, there is marginal propensity to consume is 0.6. So 0.6 multiplied by this. Then another round. Those who receive this multiplied by this amount, and so on. So what is happening is that because of this one initial round, third round is spending, fourth round is spending, and is going on in this way. So what happens finally is that there is a 50 billion spending has resulted in 1.25 trillion dollar spending because of that 1.25. Now this, how we have arrived at this is simply this 1/1 minus MPC, or mechanically it can be done, or 1 upon, so it will be 0.6. So you can find out. So this it will be 2.5. So 2.5, higher the value of multiplier, greater will be the final. For example, if it is 0.75, so it will be, so the greater will be the value of the multiplier, because this will become lower and naturally it will be higher. So that is why multiplier has got a chain effect. An initial increase results in a chain effect, and the final increase is much higher than this. And that is why fiscal policy in reviving the economy, and in current situation that government should spend money on the public expenditure program to put money in people's hand when businesses are very chary and careful not to spend money, will go a long way. So that is why the multiplier effect is very, very important here. That because the one round, second round, third round, and because it's an ongoing process, and it tapers off. There is a leakage also. So sometimes that for example, Chinese save a lot. For example, their spending is around 35-40%. For instance, in India it is 27% almost average. In US it is very less, so their spending is very high. And in economy which is under cyclical, like recessionary, people are very careful. Like in Japanese economy, when it was under recession, people were not spending it. So government was planning to provide them cash vouchers, like dropping helicopter money, cash to them, so that they can go in the market and start purchasing goods and services, so that unsold goods are purchased, and then businesses get signal that there is demand and they spend further, and the employed people, they get income, and again economy is back to break. So this is how the multiplier works out, and how but I think that I have explained to you enough concept today, so I will not go further to explain to you. And if you have any question, I would be pleased to answer those questions. Still sometimes.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, please rerun the 61 slide.
61 slide. Okay. This. Okay.
Sir, when there is a inflation, the government is following contractionary policy. Then the government decreasing the spending, but it will increase the demand of the people, and supply is less, so inflation will increase by the contractionary policy.
I think inflation is the period of rise in price, general level of price, when there is a tendency in the economy for general level price to rise over a period of time. So inflation is considered to be enemy number one. Okay. So government's role is to bring down the total demand, because it may be that demand is greater than the supply, and therefore the prices are increasing, isn't it? So in this time, to contain it, what the government does, the government may cut down its expenditure, so that the people have less money, and also can increase taxes, so that the disposable income in the hand of people is less. So when they will have less income, the demand will be brought down, so that the demand for goods and services, which is stoking the rise in price, may be contained. But the art of the economic policy is that when containing inflation, government should not, unduly affect the real GDP. By curbing the inflation, the GDP also get affected, because you are also reducing. So that is why the art of policy making, that without hurting much the GDP, one can contain. So like that. So fiscal policy is one way to address this problem of inflation. Okay. And same way monetary policy can also be used. That the monetary policy, the rate of interest, that is may be increased by the central bank, that is Reserve Bank, and that will make the borrowing costlier. So that may also curb the spending by the businesses and the consumers if they are buying for consumer durable and other things. So in this way, government tries to do it. So and the price level do not rise much as they would have without policy. So this is the positive thing. So this is the art, that everybody knows that if the prices are rising, that you cut down expenditure, but by how much? It is an art. It is a judgment, that judgmental, where you cut down expenditure, which does not affect much, where on the spending which is essential or non-essential or where. But one thing is that if prices rises too much, then like recent time, in COVID time, when government finds for other reason, they froze the DA. So sometimes prices are rising, then what happens that what the government does, that government asks the companies not to distribute dividend and like that. So the idea is that to curb the total demand in the economy via reduction in public expenditure and increasing taxes, both direct and indirect taxes. But as I told you that these policy tools will be used very judiciously. It is not that the without much what are the areas, what type of taxes will increase or decrease, like the recent debate, like the oxygen concentrator, the life saving, the government is putting GST on that, So that the question is that government, the intention is to raise revenue, whereas the question is that whether there is a social utility of this. So again, when I take up the issue of principle of taxation, I will come to that point later.
Sir, somewhere I have read that government is following contractionary policy, fiscal policy, and RBI is following expansionary fiscal policy, monetary policy. So why they are doing so?
Government is following contractionary policy.
Yes, sir, and RBI is following expansionary monetary policy.
So it may be the case that that this is your view. The thing is that government is not following because the point here is that in a condition like this, when the businesses demand was less and there was a lot of unemployment in the economy and GDP has come down, so contractionary policy is not desirable at all, isn't it? In order to boost both fiscal and monetary policy should work in nexus. So that is why there is a lot of criticism on the part of government, why government is chary of spending money when this situation is there, isn't it? So government may be following a policy like that, but it is not a right policy at this moment. All the countries of the world, they are following a expansionary policy in this time.
Okay, sir.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, in the earlier class today in the concept of management, the Parvez sir asked us that told us that when the university was set up in 1920, the amount paid was around 36 lakhs. So he asked us what will be the present value of that money.
Present value of that money. You understand the present value concept? What is?
So I wasn't able to make a proper guess, but we made a guess around 100 crores. So sir told us that it would be on the lower estimate side.
You see that 36 lakh, if you keep money in your bank, I think that there should be, I think he is not. Present value he is using in a layman's language. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Present value in the area of finance is that so for example, if you 36 lakh in 1920, what is the worth now in 2021? Okay, keeping in line inflation. So actually what he meant was that what will be the future if money had been, for example, has grown by, let us say, the kept in a bank, let us say 5%, it is growing every year. Okay. And also taking into account the real rate, inflation is there. What will be worth? So the formula for compounding in order to arrive at after taking it can work out in this way. Okay. So, but actually the concept of present value is that, for example, a rupee today is worth more than what it will be tomorrow. So there is a concept in present value in finance we use in different contexts. What he meant, but what is the current value now? What will be the worth now of that amount? So the formula is very simple. You know that if rule of 72, you understand it. So here, in order to arrive at this value, you have to find out that the amount of money which you invested to grow over the years, keeping in with inflation and other things. So it will have to work out. But I think a guesswork that 100 lakh or something, I will have to work out what will be the worth now. But the idea is simple that, for example, if money, if anything is growing by 8%, how many years it will take to become double is 9 years. Okay. For example, 1 lakh, if it is growing by 8%, so it will take 9 years to become 2 lakh, and then further like that. So this is a simple rule, but the same compounding formula can be used after adjusting for the rising price. Because there is a erosion in the money also. So what is the worth now? So the real interest rate will be taken in compounding formula to arrive at, and the formula is very simple, the compound rate. So the number of years which are there. Okay, so that can be worked out in the same way.
Thank you, sir.
But I think that the idea of Keynes is worth $1 trillion. Okay. So sometimes some ideas are invaluable. You can't compare it. Okay. So the amount of charity at that time, 36 lakhs and other, for example, the Nawab of Nizam of Hyderabad kept his amount in the bank, before the independence. And that amount has grown to a level. You can find out how much it has grown over the years in UK bank. So, okay. And this idea of present value and the future value concept. So what he meant, the future value of that, not the present value, technically to be very correct. Okay. So we'll discuss further in our next class about this just an announcement that I will not be meeting this week for the rest 2 days, and I'll start from Monday onward. And just wait today. In the evening I will inform that where I will be able to take class tomorrow or not. But Thursday there will be no class, and I will inform you. Otherwise, our course position is very comfortable, so there is no problem as far as coverage is concerned. It's still a lot of time.